Good morning, everybody. Today, I wanted to talk about anger. So, anger is a topic that's been coming up a lot, of course, in the world all around us, and for many of us personally. And I've been thinking about it a lot myself in the past couple of weeks. So, I thought I would just really revisit what is anger? Where does it come from? What harm does it cause? What are the antidotes to anger? And how can we shift our focus from anger towards benefit? So these are some of the things I'd like to unpack a little bit today. Anger. So I don't know how many of you have noticed we have kind of a lot of anger going on in the world around us right now. Anger is known in Buddhism as one of the three poisons. And the three poisons are the things that cause suffering in the world. The three poisons are greed, anger, and delusion. Greed, anger, and delusion. Sometimes we say greed, hate, and delusion. Anger is one of those. And we call them poisons for a reason. So they really have an effect, not just on the world around us, but on ourselves. These, again, are the cause of suffering in the universe. Anger is, we tend to think that our deepest happiness, our true happiness, is going to come from somewhere outside of ourselves. But in reality, anger comes from an internal way of being. So rather than being dependent on external circumstances, I like this, I don't like this, I want this car, I don't like my boss, I don't want this to happen, we can really find peace and true happiness from within. So rather than trying to fix the external problem, we can change the way that our minds engage with the external problem. There's a line from Shantideva that I love. Where could I find leather enough to cover all the earth? With merely the leather of my shoes, it is as if the whole earth were covered. Where could I find leather enough to cover the entire earth? But with merely the leather of our shoes, it's as if the entire earth were covered. So rather than trying to cover the whole earth with leather to protect our own feet, rather than expect everyone else to behave in a way that makes me comfortable, I can cover my own feet with leather and I'll be protected wherever I go. I can shift my focus to how I meet these challenges, how I meet different people, how I engage with the world. And by orienting in this way, we can be prepared for anything. It doesn't get rid of it, it doesn't fix it, but we have ways of really engaging with anger and the causes of anger. So there is a way to work with it, and it doesn't have to be yelling. Or conversely, many of us tend to turn our anger towards ourselves. So I'd like to talk about this a little bit. Anger is a response to fear. So anger often comes up when we're feeling unsafe. So maybe that's unsafe in our worldview. You know, if we've always engaged with the world in a certain way and things change, it feels weird and we can become angry. Or what about just a very simple example of, if you've ever been in a fender bender with your car, then there's that, oh my goodness. And even when you know that you're okay, often the people get out of the car and start yelling at each other. You were so inconsiderate. You went the wrong way. You know that you're safe, but that leftover of, oh my goodness, I was afraid, is still there. Once a friend shared with me how that worked for him, getting into a fender bender like that, or maybe somebody almost cut him off, and it went, you're ridiculous, you're awful, no, you're awful, no, and they yelled at each other. And then one of them, they took a little pause, and one of them goes, I was so afraid. And the other one said, I was too. And then there was space to come back. Nobody was hurt. And even if they had been, that space gives us the space to react in a way that's helpful rather than harmful. So when we tend to, when we're engaging in anger, we tend to go towards blame. It's all your fault. It's a way of pushing it away. You did this. You're a bad person. We make these, giant pronouncements, not just you did something that wasn't okay, but everything you do is not okay. And you, in fact, are a bad person, and your mother was a bad person, and your father's a bad person, and your children are bad people. We just keep going and make it bigger and bigger and bigger, when in fact we can really come back to, whoa, I am not feeling so safe. I'm afraid. This is uncomfortable. This is how anger tends to work. We either blame others, or again, I don't want to leave out that we often turn our anger on ourselves. And I'm going to talk more about that in just a minute. Well, where could I find leather enough to cover all the earth? With merely the leather of my own shoes, it is as if the entire earth were covered. So how can we shift our focus that way? So we can start off by learning a little bit about anger. And why is anger harmful or even dangerous for us? Anger is considered, of the three poisons, the most dangerous. And the reason is the harm that we can cause can be so quick and so immediate. So if you think about sorry, my glasses are weird today. If you think about, the example of a gun, if you're holding a gun, and I hate to make this, but I'll just pretend. If you're holding a gun, it only takes a split second to boom, pull the trigger, and then you've killed somebody. So fast. But there are other ways that happens too. If we're really angry, we can say something out of our mouth in that moment of anger that completely kills an entire friendship. Just like that. So what can we do to counter that when it comes up? Because anger also has a purpose. Anger is a flag for us. Something's not right. Something's out of balance. So how can we move from, something's not right, that fear or that knowledge, and prevent that knowledge from immediately causing harm? How can we orient more towards being helpful, even in that moment? Why is anger dangerous? Anger has effects on our body. If you think about it, even when we get angry, our whole face becomes ugly. Really, we get contorted. It's not pleasant to look at, and it pushes people away. We're yelling, just the noise, the level of the volume pushes people away, but also their fear, ooh, are they going to hurt me, pushes away. So how can we counter that? I'm going to take a little side step for a moment and talk about the nens in en, a Japanese word, which is a moment. So the first nen is when something happens, just that. The second nen is when we name it. Oh, a sound, or even snap. And the third nen is the effect or the thoughts about it. First nen is pure cognition. Second, naming. Third, the trail that comes in. So how can we come back, especially with anger, to that first moment? What's going on here? It can be fascinating if we can make it that way, and it takes some work. So how is anger dangerous? So I already mentioned the ways that it can be dangerous to others. It could kill our friendship. It could kill a human. If we're driving when we're angry, we could have a car accident. You know, if we're working with tools when we're angry, we could hurt ourselves or someone else. If we're cooking when we're angry, much more easy to cut ourselves with a knife or burn ourselves. If we are operating in the world in a way that's angry, we can destroy the environment around us, hurt animals. There's so many ways that anger can cause harm. What about to ourselves? What does anger do to us? So to start off with, there are a lot of health issues that come up as a result of a habit pattern of anger. So rather than just the moment of anger, which of course happens to everybody, the more we engage in it, the more we have a habit of engaging in it. And the more we shift from being, I am angry, to I am an angry person. It becomes a habit, so much of a habit that not only do others expect that from us, but it's our go-to place when we're feeling unsafe. And this is where the harm can really come in. Health problems. We all know about heart disease, heart attacks. Also weight gain, obesity. Anger can affect our digestion. It interrupts our sleep cycles, has so many different effects. And it even leads to a shorter lifespan. So we have less time to be of benefit in this world. The more anger becomes a habit for us. And then I mentioned turning anger towards ourselves. So when we shift from, oh my goodness, I really messed up here. When we shift from that to, Tinku, what were you thinking? Oh, ridiculous. When we shift from that, then that becomes a habit. Then what are the effects there? Of course, depression can be one of them, or alienation from others. If we start to really, over the habit of consistently being angry at ourselves or blaming ourselves, then we start to feel unworthy of friendships and we can become separated from others. Or even apathy or dissociation, like a removal, like an inability to engage with others. I mentioned a greater propensity to have accidents, but other ways that we can harm through anger is through a lack of empathy. Again, the more removed we get, the less engaged and the less empathy and compassion we can have for others. And then we look for ways to cope. So a greater tendency to drink alcohol or to check out in other ways, drugs, or sometimes, and then that becomes a reinforcing pattern because our barriers come down when we drink, and then the anger comes out more easily. We're less able to take a pause. Anger also manifests when it becomes a habit as consistent worry and anxiety. It can become more impulsive and becomes a way of being, this all-pervasive anxiety that never ends. This is what happens when we turn anger towards ourselves. We overfocus on negative things. We start to see everything in the world as negative or even out to get us. And we forget the positive things that we bring to this world and that the world brings to us. So this is the danger when anger becomes a habit. And I think we often talk about the effect of anger on others, but we don't as often talk about the effect of anger on ourselves. Anger harms us as well as others. Anger harms our relationships. Anger pushes us apart. How do we use that moment of alarm, spark of anger, something's not right, stay present, and use that as a moment to come back and connect on a deeper level? If we can do this, then our relationships actually become deeper, more rich, more understanding. But it's a challenge. So that's the next thing I would like to talk about. Anger is this, stress response that activates what we, sort of colloquial call our lizard brain. So when our lizard brain is activated, the amygdala, then we have this threat. Oh my goodness, danger, danger, danger. And we have this immediate response to push away. So we're not really thinking logically, and we're not completely in our bodies and in our practice. Fortunately for us, we have cultivated the ability through our Zazen practice to stay present in the face of difficulty. We've learned how to do that, not in our minds, but in an embodied way. When we sit Zazen, follow our breath, thoughts arise, come back to our breath. We've cultivated this body-mind fusion habit of coming back, of staying present, not checking out. So when we're sitting, often feelings of anger can come up. We've learned to stay present to them. And what do we learn? The more we stay present, that it doesn't last. Sometimes we can learn valuable information too. Oh, I was so angry. I was scared, I think. Or, I wonder where that came from. That feels like a really old habit. Oh my goodness, I blamed that person for something that was totally my fault. What was going on there? That's not okay. I need to do some repair. We can learn from our anger if we can stay present to it. That's the next challenge. But we've already, again, cultivated the habit of staying present in difficult circumstances. So now I can talk a little bit about the antidotes to anger. So some of these things are ways that we can encourage ourselves to stay present, even in the face of that spark of anger. Lizard brain, danger, danger, push away. Think about when you're driving. I don't know if y'all have had this experience, but I have. One morning this week, 3 times in one morning, I'm driving, focused on the road, and somebody just started going into my lane, almost hit me. The first time there was a funeral procession coming and they wanted to get out of the way of the funeral procession, but there was nowhere for them to go. So they just started driving right into my car. And there was someone ahead of me, someone behind me, and it was really alarming. So immediately what happens when that goes on? Our go-to place is fear and then anger. What can we do instead? So I think we all have to cultivate our own ways, but I'll share my own. So I've cultivated this habit that initially it was a bit sarcastic, I'll admit that, but now it's just here. When those kind of things happen, backing off and saying, go ahead, sweetie, it's all right. So again, initially it was kind of a little sarcastic. All right, honey. But now it feels real. And I've done it enough that it takes me out of the alarm stage and it makes me a safer driver because I no longer need to be right. I can just back off and give some space, making them safer, me safer. Maybe it makes them happier. You know, they certainly are not in an alarm stage anymore because they found a safe place to be ahead of me. Did it cost me something? Not really. You know, maybe 3 seconds of time. So I think that's a good trade-off. It's all right, sweetie. Go ahead. You can get in. Please be my guest. Patience. Patience is the antidote to anger. This is the core. If we can cultivate the habit of taking a pause when we're really angry, it can go so far. You know, of course, it gives us a little space to step back, but it also gives our lizard brain a little moment to settle down. Because when that lizard brain is activated, then we feel like we need to protect. We're scared. So let's take a pause. We can take a pause, and again, y'all know how to do this through your Zen practice. Come back to your breath. Even the act of breathing into your lower belly actually soothes that part of your brain physiologically. Gives us space to let go of the fear and to react in a way that's helpful, not harmful. And we can cultivate this as a habit. Patience as a habit. Pause. Allow your body, your mind to settle. So let's try it for a moment. Just take a second, close your eyes. Remember a time when you felt suddenly afraid. Maybe someone cut you off in traffic. And at that moment, pause. Take a really long out breath. Take another in breath and a long out breath. Space. Can you feel that tingly fear sensation settling? Coming back into groundedness. And then we can react. You know, if our car is hit, we pull over. We take the information. If somebody's hurt, we call for help and we can attend to them much better. If we're not hurt, then we don't create an enemy of the person who's also scared that we just connected with in an unpleasant way. Anger is really hard to turn off, but with patience, we can cultivate the ability to create a little gap before it comes up and takes over. Another antidote, we can shift our focus. We can remind ourselves, okay, this person is acting weird today. Maybe something's going on with them because usually they're okay. What is going on? You know, and even, you know, we could have that little internal voice that has a little more graciousness. Oh, sweetie, oh, something's really off for you today. I'm so sorry. We can do that for ourselves too. When that inner voice starts coming up, telling us how bad we are, then we can cultivate that same softness for ourselves. Oh, sweetie, you're having a hard day, aren't you? It's okay. We're going to get through this. We're going to be okay. Let's just take a rest. We can turn off external signals. So if we're in a crowd of people and everybody is reacting angrily, we can very simply turn off external signals if we're feeling safe by just shutting our eyes. Or we can step aside to a quiet place. Just take a few minutes. Turn it off. If it's on our phone, this, constant, right now we have this, or, always, we have this constant news cycle that's intended to stimulate us so that we'll watch more of it, so that they can make more money, so that we are more engaged. But when that never shuts off, when that's constant stimulation of fear, and then the results of fear, the outrage and the anger, then that becomes a habit pattern. We really have to break that habit pattern. And we can do that by creating a pause, by turning it off. So we can make rules that allow us the spaciousness to turn off. So what else can we do? When we change our environment, it really helps. And another thing that helps is moving our bodies. When we get this lizard brain activated, we get stuck. So we already know how to come back to our breath. How are we going to get back in our bodies? I have this friend who every day she has a habit. She's a nun who anger is a go-to place for her. So she has a habit of going for a run. And she finds expending that energy really helpful. So not only does it help her let go of that tension or that anger, but it also improves her physical condition so that her habit is now shifted from the harm that anger can cause, both to self and others, towards benefit for her. More stability, a way of coping. So we could exercise. We could just go outside and look at the sky. There's so many ways we can cultivate to create that pause if we do it with intention. And the final thing I want to say is once we create that pause, it gives us some space to think about what we need to do. This person just yelled at me. What is going on with her? Oh my goodness. That was so unpleasant. I did not enjoy that one bit. All right, so something's off. I wonder what's off. Did I do something? Can I give that person some space to tell me what's going on? What are they afraid of? When we create that pause, again, we have the breath, physical pause. We can take ourselves out of the situation for a minute, can shift our focus, can move. We can just look at the sky. When we create that pause, then we can then more accurately assess. All right, 97% of what she said is totally wrong. But what about that 3%? Is that useful to me? I think it is. Oh my goodness, I had no idea I was doing that. Let's make repair. So then we can go into repair. And that's what allows our relationships to really deepen. When we can stay present, use the anger as a flag to investigate with curiosity, and then learn what to do about it. I've talked before about how to make repair. Figure out what's going on. What did we do wrong? Name it, not vaguely, but specifically. Say exactly what it was we did wrong. Say, I'm sorry. Tell the person how we're not going to repeat that same behavior again. And then go a little more. Do a little extra to make them feel a little better. It's not that hard once we figure out how to do it and cultivate the bravery to do it. Once we've done it a few times and see how it actually allows our relationships to deepen, or even talking about difficult subjects, if we can both stay present, it lets our relationships deepen and grow. If we can do that, we can connect better with the entire universe. We can have a more beneficial world. We can love each other more, less danger, and more kindness, find enough space for everybody. And if we can do this, creating that pause that allows that flash, the flames of anger to settle, we can make the entire universe a better place for all living beings. Thank you.